The very first time Patricia Garrison started shrieking, clutching her pearls and hollering that I was kidnapping the neighborhood, I hadn't even spoken a word. All I had done was set down 2 orange traffic cones at the end of my driveway. But to Patricia, reigning monarch of the Burwood Heights HOA and self-appointed guardian of suburban order, this tiny act was apparently nothing short of a declaration of war. Let me rewind. My name's Daniel Harper. I'm a widowed history teacher who spends his free time woodworking in my garage. I moved into my little ranch house in Burwood Heights 3 years ago, looking forward to quiet streets, birdsong, and the smell of sawdust. At first, it was exactly what I wanted: tree-lined roads, neat lawns, and peace. Then one random Monday, a caravan of minivans swarmed my driveway like ants on a dropped popsicle, and life hasn't been quiet since. Patricia, 64, hair lacquered solid, and a closet full of pastel blazers, runs the HOA like it's the Vatican. Rules are rigid, confusing, and immune to reason. She had apparently redesignated my driveway as the official overflow pickup zone for Burwood Elementary, citing something she called communal spatial fluidity. I still don't know what that's supposed to mean, and I spend my days teaching teenagers who invent words for fun. The first I heard of this brilliant scheme was when 17 SUVs suddenly clogged my driveway one afternoon. Horns blared, kids screamed, and a golden retriever happily relieved itself on my lawn. When I stepped outside, bewildered, one frazzled mom rolled her window down and said, "Thanks for volunteering your space for the greater good." Volunteering? I hadn't volunteered for anything, unless you count quietly building a bookshelf. From that day forward, every afternoon at exactly 3:12, the chaos descended. Cars boxed in my mailbox, honking like geese, while juice boxes and gum wrappers littered my hydrangeas. Kids stomped through my flower beds as if they were jungle gyms. One Tuesday, a boy even relieved himself on my hedge while his mom scrolled through her phone. When I pointed it out, she just shrugged and muttered, "Boys will be boys," before driving off in her gas-guzzling tank of an SUV. When I took my complaint to Patricia, she marched to my door with a pamphlet she'd clearly made herself. The title: "It Takes a Village: Optimizing Shared Space for Childhood Success." 14 pages of rainbow borders, Comic Sans text, and stock clip art of smiling kids. She tapped her acrylic nails against the cover while lecturing me about how my resistance to community integration reflected poorly on my character. I tried being reasonable. I put up signs reading "Private Property" and "Do Not Block Driveway." Patricia tore them down within hours, claiming they broke HOA aesthetic guidelines, subsection 12.4. 4. I hadn't even realized our HOA rules went that deep. Subsection 12.4 of the aesthetic guidelines? News to me. When I filed a formal complaint with the board, Patricia shot back with a counter-complaint accusing me of having unwelcoming energy and damaging the emotional well-being of neighborhood children. Things escalated when I put up a simple chain across my driveway as a deterrent. By 7 o'clock the very next morning, Patricia was at my door flanked by her loyal deputies, Margaret Bloom and Susan Crawford. They demanded I take down what they called a safety hazard. When I refused, Patricia threatened me with a $50 a day fine for unauthorized property modifications. I reminded her that using my driveway as a daily school drop-off zone was also unauthorized, but reasoning with Patricia was about as useful as shouting at a brick wall. The breaking point came one Thursday. A distracted parent on their phone swung into my driveway, clipped my mailbox, and snapped it clean in half. My mail went flying across the lawn like parade confetti. No note, no apology, just a van speeding off to soccer practice, as if basic courtesy was optional. That night, I sat surrounded by zoning maps, HOA bylaws, and a stack of legal websites. I even phoned the county clerk, who found the whole ordeal darkly amusing. What Patricia had orchestrated wasn't just obnoxious, it was flat-out illegal. Her so-called communal driveway plan counted as a forced easement without compensation. The HOA had zero authority to seize private property for public use without my written consent. The clerk even hinted I could sue for damages and harassment if I wanted. Armed with that knowledge, I decided enough was enough. The following morning, I launched my counteroffensive. 2 orange cones went up at the foot of my driveway. A large note trespassing sign citing specific county ordinances followed. Finally, I parked my truck diagonally across the drive like a barricade. Then I settled onto my porch with a cup of coffee, ready for the 3:12 invasion. Sure enough, the first van rolled up at 3:10. The driver, a woman in yoga pants and a baggy college sweatshirt, glared at my barricade, honked twice, then 3 times, and finally laid on her horn for a full 10 seconds. I strolled over, coffee mug in hand, emblazoned with "I know my rights," and politely informed her that my driveway was permanently closed to school pickup. Within moments, Patricia appeared, dressed in a velour tracksuit the color of radioactive salmon, her face already red and climbing the spectrum toward purple. She shrieked that I was endangering children and creating a traffic hazard, flailing her arms as though she might lift off the ground. She demanded I move my truck immediately or face serious consequences. That's when I gestured calmly toward the sheriff's deputy pulling up at the curb. I'd reported the ongoing trespassing and damage earlier, and they'd sent Deputy Rodriguez. She was tall, stone-faced, and radiated the kind of energy that suggested she'd rather be anywhere but refereeing suburban melodrama. Patricia's complexion shifted from crimson to violet to a shade of pale white as the deputy walked over. Rodriguez listened to both sides, though Patricia's testimony mostly consisted of high-pitched shrieking about community values and the welfare of children. When the vote to remove Patricia finally came, the tally was 9-2. The only yes votes she received were from herself and her ever-loyal sidekick, Margaret Bloom, though even Margaret looked like she was regretting it. Patricia rose to her feet, her complexion flickering through shades of red, purple, and pale white like a busted television screen. She declared the neighborhood would collapse into chaos without her. Then she stormed out, heels clattering against the linoleum, while someone began a slow clap that spread until the entire room was cheering. Harold Jasper was even heard muttering, "It's about damn time," though later he swore he'd said, "darn time." With Patricia gone, the new HOA president, Thomas Chin, a sensible man who actually understood property law, immediately overturned 2 years' worth of her arbitrary decrees. 3 weeks later, I spotted Patricia at the school crosswalk, drowning in a reflective vest 3 sizes too big, holding a stop sign in the drizzle. She looked absolutely miserable. As it turned out, she'd been sentenced to 100 hours of community service for fabricating authority and creating unsafe traffic conditions. Parents driving past gave her looks that ranged from pity to pure schadenfreude. And Patricia had no choice but to endure it, under the watchful eye of the sheriff's deputy stationed across the street to make sure she saw every hour through.